Give it a minute. There we go. Sub Facebook, sub YouTube. It's Kevin with Canine Freedom Dog Talk, and today I have my local dog trainer friend Ingrid. How are you doing?
Hello, everyone. Hello, Kevin. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So appreciate having you on, and yeah, if anything, before we start, Ingrid, like for those who don't know you, if you want, do you want to do a little quick intro about yourself and what you're doing in the dog world?
Sure. Yes. I have been working with dogs professionally since 2016. It was my first job out of high school. It was just like classic kennel tech in like a boarding facility. That was like dipping my toes into the dog world. Professionally, I raised, like, lived with the dog my entire life, raised him. He was like my buddy, loved training him, like, was always a dog lover, but never really considered a career in the dog world. I just didn't seem like an option, which now looking back is so funny. But started as just a kennel tech, worked in 2 different kennels. The second kennel that I worked at really focused on socialization and just dog behavior within the play groups. I think the first kennel that I worked at was more of a classic, like, throw them all in together and hope for the best and just send someone out there and spray them with a hose if they're bad kind of situation. And so in a lot of ways, I'm actually really grateful for that experience because it opened my eyes to, like, the realities for a lot of dogs and dog owners experience within the daycare, which is full circle, played a huge role in, like, allowing me to do my job better now doing private lessons. But all that to say, the second kennel was fabulous. They really promoted just dog training education in general. And they hooked it up with a Learberg online account for many a Michael Ellis videos. So I was just a little sponge absorbing as much like dog training information as I could while working in a kennel environment and getting to like apply it all. And then I got a puppy and raised him. And then I started doing private lessons kind of through that kennel environment. We were also doing board and train. So that was like how I got intro into dog training. Also, again, this was just like my fun side job. Like I was going to school for radiology and I completed like all of my undergrad to be a radiology tech. It again never occurred to me that this would be a career path. Then COVID happened and I decided to like switch over my schooling, switched over like careers into dog training, went like full force ahead and was like, oh, I could actually do this. Started doing private lessons, transitioned into like my own private lesson business, and I still have a great relationship with that kennel. We like share clients and refer clients back and forth all the time. Love them. And they are a huge, like, I credit them so much for like again the educational pieces of it and like how much I learned about like dog groups, which I think a lot of dog trainers have a ton of classroom education in terms of like learning theory and all of like the science of it all, and I think that that is so useful, but I have like years of practical hands-on application of all of that, and I think that that is also super valuable in like its own way. And I think I did a lot of things backwards where I was doing the things without realizing what I was doing, and then I went back and learned the learning theory and the science of it all, which has just been really fascinating to kind of put two and two together.
Hmm.
Anyways, tying it up to like what I do currently, I do work for a current like or a local pack walking company, Canine Excellence. I've worked for Allie for going on 4 years now, I think, like in between the 3 and 4 year mark. And that's like a part-time-ish job. So I do that and then I do my private lessons. I also offer board and trains selectively. So I'm kind of all over the map when it comes to the dog training world, specifically within pets. I do want to make that known. Like my bread and butter is pet dogs, like a person who just wants a dog that they just want to live with and enjoy. That is my thing. That's my jam. I love that. Less obedience focused, more just like general behavior, making good decisions, all of that. So sorry, I know that
Yep.
was like a very long winded answer, but hopefully gives a clear picture into the
Honestly, I've
background
had
and
people here.
the perspective.
Yeah, I honestly, I've had people who are a lot longer of an intro, so don't worry about it.
Okay.
Um, I mean, honestly, it's like the bread and butter for me. It's pet dogs too.
Yeah.
Like
Love.
I it's like I don't think I don't get me wrong. I will put myself in a bite suit for a working dog if it whenever someone says yes, but I'm just way more about into the pet dogs and just kind of like what we're talking about, right? Just keeping them in homes, keeping them from the shelters, and just making
Totally.
everyone enjoyable. And yeah, I mean, sometimes it's one thing knowing the theory, but once you get hands-on stuff, it's really I prefer the hands-on, just having the technique on hand is really valuable. But once you put it together with the operating conditioning and just like all the science, then you start understanding why it works, which is really cool. Um,
Totally. Yeah.
but but yeah, no, and I love Allie too. Like I walk with Allie and Ingrid like almost almost every Friday morning now. Now that we're in the same neighborhood and things like that, and they're
Yep.
bro Ingrid and Allie are both great dog people, so I could not have asked for better dog people friends in my neighborhood. So, but yeah. So I think I want to jump right into the topic. So I think I want to talk about just you know bringing new dogs, like whether you're getting it from the shelter, rescue, breeder, just the steps on like what you should be doing when you bring a dog home, and also for people who are watching right now, um or it's just supporters of me, feel free to leave a comment, or if you know Ingrid, comment, say hi, or leave a question or things like that. But yeah, so I think she what I want to try to do is just talk about like why is it important that we establish like rules, or just have a process of how we bring new dogs into the home. Because I
Right.
think like for you and your experience, Ingrid, like how come like in this case, which I've met other dog trainers that will agree on it, like when you first bring dogs to the home, like why is it important to kind of like have like a good foundation, have a good just like start having a process when you bring a dog home versus like just this is your home, go do whatever you want, Fido
Right.
kind
Hoping for the
of
best, just
thing.
send them in without a plan in place. Sometimes that happens and
Yeah,
sometimes it works out for people.
yeah.
And oftentimes they reach out to me when they do that with their second dog and it doesn't work. And they're like, wait, this worked the first time. And I have to be the bearer of bad news and be like, hey, like, unfortunately, you just had like a gem of a dog. And I'm so happy that that worked out for you. But with this new dog, they're behaving like a dog. And we're going to have to modify what their freedom looks like, usually. And like structure and management are our absolute like best friends when it comes to introducing a new dog into the home. We want to make their life as simple and easy and thoughtless as possible, because if they get into this new environment and start have to make decisions for themselves, that usually sets them up to make bad decisions that we then have to redirect them from, that they don't understand why they're getting redirected. And so it's so much easier to just basically have your dog proofed areas that you plan on keeping them in, whether that's a playpen, a room, just a dog proofed area. A crate is usually one of many. I like to have a crate as like a smaller option, and then a bigger, a little bit more of a stretcher legs, walk around, have some more autonomy kind of option. So like a playpen, classic example.
Mhm.
But ideally, you want to have those things in place, like you were saying, before the dog comes in, not come in, unleash your dog, be like, oh my gosh, I need to contain you. So that's, in a perfect world, that's what people are doing. Oftentimes, that is not the case, and that's totally okay. But the idea is we want to set the dog up to basically mimic what their day-to-day life, like in a year from now, what do we want our life to look like, and how can I structure our days to mimic that as best as I can from the moment you come home, in a very structured way. Like, for example, if you want your dog to be laying by themselves, not bothering you while you're doing your chores, while you're doing your laundry, while you're cooking your food, put them in a tether from the moment they come home. The first, I don't care if it's a 5-year-old dog, I don't care if it's an 8-week-old puppy, if that's something you want in the future with your dog, do that from day one in a structured way, which usually looks like, again, a playpen, a leash, a tether type of situation. Basically, don't
Mhm.
give them any other option, because what often happens is people come to the conclusion that that's what they have to do after they're doing their laundry and their dog comes up and starts stealing socks and running all around the house with it, or they create some other alternative option that's not really something that I'd like for you to be doing. And sometimes there are like underlying causes of like a lack of stimulation, like, their attention seeking behavior. But ideally, we're setting them up for success by having these structured moments, also followed by training, a release of that energy, some kind of like
Yep.
outlet of some sort. So it's all
Y
about kind of just
yeah.
having some kind of plan in place for structure and like a potty schedule depending on the age of the dog, I would say too.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I mean, also, it's just funny when you have the people who've had, like, I don't know, had this story. I've had clients that say, "This is my 5th German Shepherd. My first 4 German Shepherds are super easy. I do not understand why this one is so difficult." And
Mhm,
sometimes I'm like,
mhm.
"Well, was it from the same breeder? No. Oh, well,
Yep,
is like you." I'm like, and I'll have clients who are like, in their 60s and 70s, and then they like, "Oh, from 5 years ago," and then from like decades ago, and I'm like, "To be fair, you're not as some aren't either too busy or busier than where they were before, or they are just older than where they were before, and then they decide they get a puppy, and then you're
yep,
just like." I'm like, "Yeah, this is gonna be a different experience for you," and especially where it's like simple common sense for you and I to just, we bring a dog home. I probably would let him drag a leash or maybe tether him to a leash to my hip, or even just already plan like where I'm gonna put this dog when I'm not watching
mhm,
him, or even just close all
yep,
the room doors,
yep,
and just being able to kind of start small and like kind of like in a way just be able to kind of be like, all right, this is where the living room is, like this is where this is where the bedroom, but then just in a way, just like kind of open all the rooms up as the dog starts understanding the rules. Cause like I
absolutely.
said, we just have way too many clients who just bring dogs home, and be like, oh, look, go explore your house. And then, they're wondering why, dogs peeing in the other room, or like just kind of just exploring. Cause I mean, as far as I know, there's some dogs that will push buttons, or there are some dogs that are just gonna like walk around and figure out like test the limits, test the waters, be like, what can I do right now? Um,
Yep.
and then it's just pretty much is like, yeah, there's so many other things consideration within is the dog getting stimulation physically, mentally, has the owner and the dog kind of build like a relationship, like right, like I think one because we always talk about like honeymoon phases and things, right? Like just having those 2 to 3 weeks of just like, hey, we're gonna transition, and
Yep.
we don't. And there's a reason why we don't have you just take the dogs out straight to the dog park after just getting the dog within a week, and
Yep.
take them to Tahoe or birthday parties. That I'm just like, okay, wait, like, like for me, it's like you don't even have a relationship with this dog that then you immediately just be like, oh look, let's go here, and you don't have, and it's like it's going way too fast, and like
Well, and not to like cut you off, but my
yeah, yeah,
perspective on exactly that is even if you have the best dog in the world and say you've only had the dog in your home, it's a 5-year-old dog, lab from a good previous home, and you're bringing it out because you know it can do these things. It can do the coffee shops, it can do all of the experiences, and God forbid something happens to that dog. They get run up on by an off-leash dog, something traumatic happens. You don't have the foundational relationship in place to be able to work through that
yep,
in the same way, that dog's previous owner would, so that's where, like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. God
hmm
forbid the worst case scenario happens. And we shouldn't be, making all of our decisions based off of worst case scenarios. But I think it's something important to consider because, again, even if they're the best dog in the world, you still don't have enough information about them in all of those scenarios to be able to be setting them up for success. And it's kind of just like the why of it all, just again, just because they can doesn't
I
mean they should,
no,
especially
I
that
agree,
early on. And
I
I think
agree,
it's always with good intention too, which is why I
yeah,
try to approach the subject like, I let the owners try to come to that conclusion without like spelling it out for them of like, hey, you just did too much too soon. It's like, the dog in front of you is going to determine what you can do, but also you need to keep in mind how long you've had that dog in your care and how much you actually really know. Even if by far you think, or so far you think they're the best dog ever, distance is your friend. So, you want to approach things to where, again, worst case scenario, you have room to move, room to get away, room to get them the heck out of there. You don't want to be in the thick of it within, I would say, the first 3 months, 2 to 3 months.
Yep.
I mean, and this is where with a puppy, it's going to be a little bit different than an older dog, but, and that's not to say we're not taking them anywhere, but we're doing it from a distance and slowly
Mhm.
making our way closer depending on the environment and how the dog is responding. And most
Yep.
people get to the place, unload the puppy, get right into the thick of it, and they're like, okay, now we're starting. And for us, it's like, no, this is like from the car. Sometimes we won't even get out of the car, depending
Mhm.
on the situation. So really breaking down the process into very small increments of like, okay, you want to go to the farmer's market? Like that's a 6-month goal. We're going to start a block away. We're going to start across the street. And it might sound like over dramatic, but I'd rather do all of those over dramatic steps and just fly through them than jump 3 steps too far and have something send us back 10 steps, you know?
Mhm.
So
Oh, yeah.
it,
No,
again, like a good dog is going to fly through all of those easy things quite quickly. And then we're going to progress usually on what the owner the timeline that the owner is satisfied with. I never promise timelines because there's so many factors,
no, I know.
um but yeah, it's just you'd rather go slow and keep it easy and light and like under the dog's threshold than, especially with a dog who's newer to you, than have something crazy happen and this dog, then you have to do all of that relationship building and all of the work to undo whatever the event was. So sorry, I
No, I
totally had to
agree.
cut you off on
No, it's okay. And no, it's okay. I it's a talk, so, like, you can cut
that.
people cut me people can cut me off anytime, and it's totally okay. It's a nice discussion because in the end of it, like, I'll have a client listen to this and you go, "Oh, that makes sense. Oh, got it," right? I mean, especially where like how you said, if we set the dog up too fast, depending on who gets the dog or what breed or what age, like, this dog can either get this dog is gonna have this dog or puppy till the rest of his life, like 15
Right.
years, or this
Totally.
dog is gonna be, like, living with them for, like, a few weeks and then decide,
Mhm.
"No." I it's like, right, you get a nice dog, but hasn't learned foundation and rules, and then you have, like, some people that just like, "Oh, do whatever," and then they're like, "Oh, we can't keep him anymore. He keeps stealing my butter. He keeps doing that," and I'm like, "Where was the butter? Did you even
Right.
dog-proof that house before
Right.
coming?" Like,
Right.
I think, like, I agree in the sense I'd rather start stuff slow. I'd rather have a plan where, like, I know where the dog's gonna be, and, like, I tell people, like, there's have a plan for, like, when you have a plan for when you're not supervising the dog. Can your significant other, um, watch the dog, or can you have a place that hold
Yep.
on. Bill, am I still froze, or are you good, or am I good, Bill? And then, these are my friends. Hi, Bill. It's crazy to me how people will bring dogs and give them way too much freedom. Hi, Denise. And then same exact thing I do when I bring a dog training structure first. He's a trainer up in Washington. He's a really cool guy. He does live streams too.
Oh, sweet. Love
He
that.
has a Patreon. He's a really cool guy. Slow is fast, less is
My
more.
favorite man.
I love the less is more. So
Yeah,
all right, cool.
100%. I agree.
All right, cool. So but yeah, like if you're not watching the dog, it's like, all right, have something in place where it's like, okay, maybe
Mhm.
have, like I said, you have crates, you got playpens, you got like all these different things. Sometimes I've even done it where like I will bring a dog in the bathroom with me when I'm showering. If it's a puppy or if it's a dog, I'm like, all right, come here. Like you lay down on the floor while I take a shower. You get a bone or something, like right, like
I
just
love a
so I have a piece of
pacifier.
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, little
Not all the
little
time. We need to
pacifier.
know it for what it is, but love a
Yeah, yeah.
pacifier for
Yeah,
mental
yeah,
sanity,
yeah.
especially if you're
It
living with it. It's
yeah,
they're
yeah,
useful.
like a bully stick or like a bone or like a bone that's not gonna like not a rawhide, but like maybe a healthy rawhide or just anything that the dog would seem that's into, just something to keep them busy
Mhm.
while like I'm trying to shower and not get in the trash or like try to chew my toothbrush and all that. So
It's also
the
something I like for when I'm introducing a dog, a dog who's never been tethered, a dog who's never been crated, a dog who's never been separated from either, an 8-week-old puppy. hopefully they've had some separation from their litter mates at that point. Sometimes they haven't, you never know. But providing a pacifier, I usually say like 60% no, 40% yes. You want to
Mhm.
keep it enjoyable and fun and light. And so use things that they enjoy. Most puppies like to eat. So I'll say, like, I like topples for that, or like Kongs are kind of the classic. I think topples are a little bit easier to fill and clean. But I'll just use the dog's food and water and just make them. And, we're pairing. We need to feed them anyways. We're working on tethering or separation. So two birds with one stone. That usually gives them about 20 minutes worth of an enrichment activity of the food, followed by leave them for 20 minutes of if they whine, if they're trying to, do whatever. That's really what we're working on in that moment, is that practice separation. And so it really depends on the dog, varies dog to dog, but that's a very modifiable thing to do. And again, love the pacifier of it all for like the introduction of those new, often hard things, but good life skills for them to learn.
Yeah, and then I mean you're gonna run into dogs who are not fond of the crate right away or
Mhm.
ever, or you're gonna have dogs that are super easy to put in the crate, and that's why I like to start them young, start them easy, and like for me in these cases where I mean this is my thoughts, like dogs have 24/7 to just watch your pattern, watch your behavior, watch what pants you wear whenever you're gonna go out for a run, go to the gym, or the pants the or what I call my work jeans or my bummy sweatpants that I will put on for to walk my dogs. And the minute my dogs see that, they know we're going for a walk. Or
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
even just some people when they say, "Oh, don't say the W word. Or he's gonna know. He's gonna be so excited." And I'm like, "You mean walk?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Don't say it." And you're just like, dogs get patterns. Dog understands when you pick up the keys, there's a possible thing. Dog knows around what time the sun hits a certain corner. That's like, oh, food. But it's like, right, like I think people need to like take time to understand your dog's patterns and just
Totally.
like know what motivates your dog, know what works for your dog better. In like in the case of like, okay, does a leash work? Like, okay, does food like how do I motivate my dog? And then like, all right, my dog, especially potty. We're talking about like potty routines. We're talking about like all these little things that like what kind of pacifier this dog even likes, like if I have
Mhm.
a dog who not into bully sticks, okay, maybe I do the toppers or the kongs, so it's all these little factors.
Yeah, and dogs are physical
Because like
communicators,
yeah.
like, to what you were saying. So, like, both in how they interpret the world and how they're communicating to the world. Like, they can communicate verbally, and, they bark at stuff, but primarily, in the same way that we're primarily verbal communicators, they're primarily physical. So, they give us a lot of information
Yep.
through their body. And exactly to what you said, like, one of the most, I don't wanna say, like, pet peevey questions that I hear because it's said with such good sentiment and, like, intention, but it's like, "When
Yep.
should I start training?" It's like, "The moment the dog comes home," and it's not necessarily we're doing sit, stay down, obedience 24/7, but everything we've talked about up until this point is training, like, management, structure, all of that is giving the dog information on how to live in our house. And that's what I
Mhm.
mean when I say training starts from day one, the moment the dog comes home, is like they're constantly learning. They're constantly observing, taking in the information that we're giving them. So we should be giving them as clear of information to what we want from them as possible. And many of us with good intention talk at them a lot. And so bring the dog home and give them
Mhm.
free rein. And then we tell them, no, stop. And they're like, wait, what? I work with a rescue with foster parents, and I commonly get these are wonderful humans doing such a good thing by taking these foster dogs into their home, and we're so grateful for them. And I do pretty much free consults for them all the time, video calls, all the things, because I want these dogs to end up in homes, and I want these fosters to help them build good skills to end up in good homes.
Mhm.
Um, and most common question within that realm of people is the dog just doesn't understand no, and it's like, okay, well, well, what have you done to teach that up into this? And then we have this conversation of they're not a verbal creature, they're a physical creature. You have to show them what that means, even if they've been taught that before. That doesn't apply to you in this environment. So, and we go over all the structure things that we've talked about up until this point. But it's just
Yep.
back to, the physical versus verbal of it all. It's like a light bulb moment when we have that conversation a lot of the time. And I would say 60% of my job in my private lessons is teaching humans how to communicate what they want physically instead of verbally. Because it's very easy
Mhm.
for them to say, "Come here, don't do that, stop doing that, don't do this," and it's really hard for people to actually use their bodies to show their dog. You know, the simplest
Sure.
example is backing up for them to come to you and walking into them for them to walk away. Like,
Mhm.
most classic kind of universal dog language, and that's like usually the one I start with because it works with. I've never had it not work. I demonstrate that to the humans. I'm saying, hey, try this. Walk into them and then walk away from them, and they're like, whoa.
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah, you're speaking their language now. And oftentimes the dogs look at their humans like, whoa, I've never
Yep.
had them apply spatial pressure before, and they have a really good time, when they walk away. Anyways, it's that light bulb moment on both ends when the humans can kind of connect. Oh, this is how I can communicate to them, and then the dogs really appreciate that too. That's a relationship building moment for both of them
Yep.
because it's frustrating for everybody when we're yelling at them and they don't get it, and they understand that we're upset, but they don't understand why. They, being the dog, don't understand why the human is upset because they were just being a dog by going and picking up a sock or doing what dogs do, which they're
Sure.
opportunists. They're gonna take
Or
opportunities that we give them. So it's our job to limit those opportunities and pay them very, very well when they make good decisions if presented with an opportunity, if we can identify those
Yep.
things. So all that back to, like,
Yeah.
again, teaching the humans in front of me how to identify those moments and physically communicate with those dogs in those moments where the words are on the tip of your tongue and you're really like about to say it. I was like, nope, wait, that's not going to have, usually, if your dog's in a heightened state of mind, the desired effect. Usually they're going to blow it off and you're going to have to do the action anyway. So
Mhm.
might as well just, usually it's going to
I
be take them away from the thing, use the leash, some kind of something as simple as literally tapping them on the butt, like, hey, remember me over here? And then they turn like, yeah, do that. I'd rather that than you know. And then the dog's like, oh, I have to do this thing faster and
Yep.
run away from you.
Yep. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, definitely it's like I mean, for me, it's like structure, but I think just have I like the word clarity where the sense we're like, all right, cool,
Exactly.
like got it. Like, like my markers, like it's I think really important to have good markers, like we have
Hmm.
yes for like, good things coming, whether it's food or a toy or things like that. It's just, it's almost the same thing where like people like unintentionally or by accident kind of desensitize the word no, and then you're just like no, and then nothing happens, and then
Yep.
like being able like just teach simple body language because like how you said, training doesn't have to be just obedience like the monkey drills. Is just like, it's like okay, build up, make them wait or practice boundaries, not bolting out the door, or like, working on little bits of leash pressure since we have the dog on a leash on the house, or even just like my favorite thing is telling people be proactive with dogs instead of reactive, right? So just having the leash is like a 6 foot extension or however long you leave a leash on this dog, like kind of pick the dog up if he's about to get into something, use the leash to kind of bring him back,
Hmm.
and I'm always, whether I have a treat pouch in my on my belt or I have a little cookie jar where it's like I like if the dog makes good choices, I'm gonna be like very good boy. All right, cool, come back, I'll give you a cookie. Cause like right, like I wanna get it's like a relationship. Like I'm like, imagine I tell people like imagine you tell your significant other everything that you're doing wrong. And then like how does that make you feel when I'm like if you're not giving any good feedback, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I am, like I'm a big precursor of like when you get your foundation, like, just start with simple markers. Work on like the markers you, your husband, your children, and everybody in the household will
Hmm.
understand. Even just like having like learning from like the other trainers that I know, like just having a marker for like when you're about to play, like ready or like enough means we're done. And just being able to have the clarity of it all. Cause I'm sure you've had dogs that's like you get them to play the game or like ball or whatever, but then you're like, how do I get him to stop? Or how do I let him know the game's over, right?
Yeah, and that's what I tell people a lot of times during the consult process. I say it's really easy for a lot of my clients to do many of the things that they want to do with their dogs, whether that's play, sit, lie down, some of intro to obedience, but where they struggle is the control of it all. Like, they don't have
Yep.
control. They can get their dog to do it, but they can't turn it off. They can't always turn it on. They can't access it in certain environments. And so that's where I really say, like, that's really my role as the dog trainer, is to gain like that consistency for you and kind of see, it's great that you can get it in certain environments. So like where's that not working in the areas that you're saying it's not working? What's
Mhm.
usually it's going to be the dog needs to gain some skill of food motivation, engagement with the human, it's too much too soon, the environment's too stimulating and we need to build up to it in some way. Um,
Yeah, no,
but yeah.
I agree. I think it's just about, like, you know, every person's different with how they bring a dog into their house. Is like how we talked about, we could have the nice unicorn dog someone brings in and everything, it's like the movie.
Mhm.
Some of them is just like, "Oh, I let him sleep on my bed. Now he doesn't like the crate." And sometimes it's just like, "Okay, cool," especially for you and I, we deal with different clients, and sometimes we deal with different situations and different dogs that it's like, you know, what might work for said dog over here in this neighborhood might not work for this dog, and, that's where
Sure.
you and I it's good to kinda have toolbox or different ideas that'd be like, "Hey, you know what? This might not work for your situation, but I would suggest this for
Yep.
this said dog," you know?
Yep.
Especially with just, like, it's just tough because, like, I feel like clients could do their best and be like, "Oh, yeah, we did this," and then at the end of it all, then they were like, "Oh, we forgot to do this," and it's like, I also tell clients, I'm like, "Hey, it's no big it's no worry. You forgot about this. Trust me, I forget a lot of things," or, like, I could tell clients, you could socialize your dog to 1,001 things, but then you forget the traffic cone or the
Totally.
umbrella, then you're like, "Oops," and you're like, "No
Totally.
big deal. Like, here we are. Here, look at Atlas.
Now, I
Look
mean,
at Atlas."
immediate. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
His crate's upstairs, so he's coming down. He's got a little bit of a block, but I think he'll figure it out. I will always tell people like there's a
Yeah.
million ways to train a dog. Like I'm gonna present a set of options based off of like my experiences and my skill set, but this is not the only way to do this. And sometimes I love when I presented with a challenge of okay, this none of the ways that I know of to do this are working. Like how can we outsource? Can we reach out to another trainer friend? Can I do some research? Like what makes the most sense for the situation? Love an opportunity to do that. Um,
Mhm.
okay, good.
Yeah, I love
But
I love networking. I love brainstorming with other dog people. I mean,
totally.
especially where, like, that's where I got to meet you and Ali, who actually said hi right here. So
Hello, Allie.
glad to have you watch, Ali. Give Ava, some give Ava some hugs and kisses, and Layla too. So, um, but yeah, so I think, just being able to have those real important things, like, I like I like just having the leash drag, just because it's
Mhm.
just because it's super easy for me to just pick up the leash, because, like, how people, like, grab the dog's collar or by the scruff, they try to pick it up, they try to drag it down off the couch and things like
Yep,
that. It just creates so much conflict that I'm more just like, dude, just have the leash on this dog, and, like, when you trust your dog more, like, long enough, okay, cool, then the leash can come off, right? Um, I'm trying to think for a minute. Like, I think, like, we talked about crate chaining, which I feel is really important, and I feel like also too, just having a routine with the crate, not just put the dog in the crate when you gotta go to work, because, like,
yep.
otherwise you're gonna deal with dogs who just scream in the crate and just, like, all that. Like, I'd rather do things like feed the dog in the crate, you know, any fun stuff like bully sticks and things that go in the crate. I'm hanging out with them, next to them in the crate.
Mhm.
Just being able to kind of just just so, hey, you can chill out in your crate. It's all good. It's not a punishment or anything like that, right? Um, Especially with how busy people lives are, especially how busy with
Yep,
you and I our careers can be, where we're gonna be out of the house, and so, like, we need crate dogs to be crate trained to get used to just traveling, or when I just need a shower and I don't feel like bringing the dog into the bathroom, um,
totally.
because I think too. I'm trying to think, like, what are
I
yeah,
mean,
because yeah.
this is tangent, this is separate from what we're talking about, but it did just pop into my brain of depending on the situation, if this is a foster, less of something I encourage, but sometimes if it's something that's within the rescue's budget, but if someone adopts a dog from the shelter and there's not DNA information on that dog, that's usually like the first recommendation I make. Um, if it's a dog they want to bring in their home like long term for a multitude of reasons. But genetics play a huge role in dog behavior, why they make decisions, what they like to do. There's so much information that we can get from that. And usually, like the biggest difference between a rescue dog versus like a purebred, ethically bred dog, I always say like the biggest difference is information and like access to resources and support through depending on where you're getting your dog from. But
Mhm.
the easiest way to get more information on the rescue dog in front of you is to do a DNA test. So if that's something that's like financially feasible for my clients, which usually if they're working for with me, like it is an option for them.
Mhm.
It's a very strong recommendation that I make because it gives us so much. I say it allows us to only be a better dog parent is really what it is because it gives us so much information about again why they do what they do, what they might enjoy, which would only allow us to better serve them and like better implement them into our daily life.
Sure. Sure.
Um, so
I
like
mean,
it, the amount of lab mixes where there's no lab. They're a border collie cattle dog, and it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense why they were nipping at the kids' ankles and making these decisions. And so we're gonna have to put more structure on a herding type dog than we would a retriever type dog in a like very kid centric type home. Something as simple as that,
sure.
I think, and that information can be very valuable to have.
I honestly think the more information you have on the dog and how you use it, the better it is for living with the dog, you know? Like it's
Mhm.
because at the end of it, like if I am a lazy couch potato bum that enjoys my 30-minute walk a day, I don't want to have a Belgian Malinois or a border collie that was
Yep.
straight from the ranch, that's gonna make me get up and like actually do things, which shocker, dogs are very nice to have as companion travel buddies, exercise buddies, but like lifestyle wise,
Yep.
you gotta know what you're looking for, like is this the dog that fits that lifestyle with me, like just being able to kind of know that and just like right like if this dog has some sheepdog in it, cool, then I know maybe this dog would like to chase stock, or maybe I do fun tricks with it that kind of fulfills that. If I have a goofy lab or like kind of thing, water, ball, just being able to kind of
Yep.
find the thing that fits the niche, like we I think because I think you and I were used to having clients that kind of try to force the dog in the mold,
Yep.
like
Totally.
triangle
Yes. Like
circle
everybody wants
mold.
pretty much a lap. Most of the families that I'm working with they want a happy-go-lucky, can go anywhere, can do anything, can coexist with everyone. They want generally like a lab golden type disposition, like regardless of what the dog looks like in front of them. And sometimes we can achieve that, but it's also very important to be very realistic depending on the dog in front of you, their genetics. I always say, like, it's important to look at if this dog was, many dogs were designed to work. Pretty much all dogs were either like companions or working dogs in some way. And that work looks very different depending on if the dog was designed to work with the people or separate from the people.
Mhm.
So, like, think retrievers, hunting dogs, they're working alongside the people to a lot of hunting dogs are independent to a degree, but they're still, they're in tune with their humans versus like I have a livestock guardian breed mix. Like he's designed to do whatever the heck he wants completely separate from me. And I need to take that into account when I'm micromanaging him and asking him to do all of this stuff. There's naturally going to be pushback there because of the way he's internally designed. He's like, no, I want to do what I want to do because this is what my body's telling me to do you know, and you're going to get a different response from like a dog who's designed to collaborate and work directly with the human. And I say all of that just because that information is really important to have with our expectations and like for the frustration level we might have for the
Sure.
dog in front of us should be realistic for the dog in front of you. You're naturally going to get a lot more frustrated if you're placing these lab expectations on not a lab.
Sure. And I mean, you and I, we have a lot of, or like I would say, like a lot of dog trainers have practiced the skill of patience and like just being able to, we're not putting in the universe. I want this dog to crap all over my house and chew stuff, but like we're aware of what could happen.
Yep.
But we make the best decisions for that dog or that living situation. Like, okay, cool. I'm just gonna do this. Just teach him that he can't really do that, and just do it be proactive in that sense. But I think I would love whoever's listening, like whoever gets a new dog or is gonna get a new dog, just be really proactive in the sense where like, even like I tell people like get on the ground, like look at the eye level, be like, what are things that you think your dog is gonna get into, and
Mhm.
just for your sanity, just put it away, or just put it in a closet, put it somewhere that your dog's not gonna get to. And when your dog understands, oh god, I don't go after mom's knickknacks, I don't steal the kids' dolls, I don't chew on dad's stinky shoes, like right then it's like, okay, put back those stuff later.
Yep.
Again, it's all just temporary, or just like when you do a lot of the structure, right? Like when you do a lot of the training, you're gonna do a lot at the beginning, but you're gonna like at the end, you're gonna like when your dog understands what's going on. All right, cool. Now we can give the dog all the bedrooms to go into. Okay, now we can let the dog have the backyard door back and forth. Like, right. But if you just start too soon,
Well, and that progress isn't even always necessarily linear too, and that's
yeah,
what I try to
yeah,
remind people because they get really frustrated. They're like, "Oh, they were doing so good. They had all this," and then, and I was like, "Okay, well, you know exactly what to do. You just go back to what you were doing a couple weeks ago." And then they work their
yeah.
way back up to that freedom. Like and it's a totally
Oh,
natural
yeah,
frustration, but this is where I will continue to remind people like dog training is a lifetime's thing. Like I'm giving you the tools to be able to manage these behaviors as you see them, as they come up, but theoretically, if your dog's done it once, even if they haven't done it in years, they are capable of doing it again. And the most important thing is to kind of identify, the underlying cause if you can. But a lot of times that's our fault for one reason or another. Um, Example I've been giving to all my clients lately is recently, I think you probably saw my video on this. Arlo, my dog, ate my treat pouch. And like so many trainers wrote in and were like, oh my God, I've done this so many times. This happened so many times. And I literally left my treat pouch that I use for training sessions all the time on the ground and like left my dogs unattended. I brought my day trained dogs home, left my dogs in here with that on the ground, came back to it shredded. And I think a lot of people without having the perspective that us dog trainers have would be so frustrated. Like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. And I came in, I was like, oh, my bad. Like I didn't think have any ounce of frustration towards my dogs in any way, shape, or form. If there was any, it would be towards myself. But even that is like wow, that tree pouch has lasted me like 5 years at this point. That's a good lifespan. Like I'm totally cool with that. And that's where I tell like my clients, like I don't expect perfection, but my goal is to get you to enjoy living with your dog as best as you can and minimizing those moments of frustration because like a lot of it is just identifying that yeah, that was my fault. And it's not about me making you a perfect human. It's about me helping you identify that so that you're not getting frustrated with this dog
sure,
who's only capable of what their dog abled brain is telling them, which we often put very high expectations
sure.
on these very capable, but still, dog brained
Yeah,
creatures.
yeah, and I think just like the expectation, but I think also too, we don't give ourselves a break. Like we're so like, I feel like some
Totally.
people are like so hard on it, and we're just,
Yeah.
and they're just like, oh, it's because I did that, and I'm like, it's not the end of the world. You
They're
like,
always the best clients too. Like,
yeah,
to give them
yeah,
some credit. Like it's always my best clients who are the hard. I'm like, you are doing so much right. Like, please give yourself and your dog a break. Like, it comes from such a good place. And so in that sense, like I know I'm like, they know it too. It's just that's where we're more of a cheerleader and a supporter and just kind of that voice of reason
yep,
of, hey, you know,
yep.
chill,
No,
take a breath. It's okay.
yeah, no. I mean,
Let it happen.
I'd rather have a client who's very concerned versus
Me
like
too.
just someone that's just like
100%.
versus just someone that's just like, eh, or
That's
like
that's
wouldn't
why I wanted to give them a special shout out. I say, like we can
100%.
easily identify it, but also that's where I will also say, like, it's so much easier for us to see that from like the outside looking in perspective. Like there are certain things with my dog that it took other people seeing and identifying, and like it's really hard when you're living with it 24/7 versus us who have this interesting like outside looking in perspective on it.
Sure,
So,
sure,
that adds a whole other element to it too. And,
sure.
like
I
for
mean,
us,
like
like
we're
that's our baby. So we have a different view on them.
sure. I mean, it's just funny where it's just like you and I hang out with a bunch of dogs. We're okay with some dogs being weird, goofy, just kind of thing. And sometimes it's just like, right, just adapting to. Like, I have a dog who I got from a client is Charlie, and it's like, right, like I have so many people like, oh, he's so cute, I want him, and I'm like, no, you don't. I'm like, I know this dog for like 7 years. I'm like, this dog is weird, but like, listen, I'm okay. I've lived to be okay with his weirdness, and I give people a heads up. Sometimes I give him a little bit too much credit, and I go, well, I'm like, it's okay. Well, we'll go back to training that, or like, okay, it's
Humbled a
like,
little bit. Yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
I got humbled in the fact as like, for him to be like, okay, he should be fine with the with my friend coming over to check in on them, and sometimes he gets a little like bug eye, little stiff, little pity abomination, whatever he is, which he's sleeping on the new bed behind me. But I still love this dog. I'm not saying he's perfect, but yeah, I didn't even want him at the beginning, but I'm like, well, he's been with me for 7 years, so he's my dog. But
I think that, like,
I come to accept it.
yeah, a lot of us there's a lot of dog trainers who have ended up with dogs that way that like we know where, it's like, oh shoot, well that dog doesn't have any other options. Then we know them and know their routines. And then over time, you form that relationship and like that work becomes like the bond and it's like that mutual respect. And
Oh,
it's yeah, it's a very
oh,
special and niche thing within the dog community. I think all of us know at least someone
oh,
who's had that
oh
experience
yeah,
with a
totally.
dog
Oh yeah,
for sure.
yeah, and imagine like right, if he wasn't with like a trainer like you and I, and he were just to go with like,
It can be a different
uh,
dog
just he would be a different dog, and then
and not
they'd
for
be
the
like,
better. Y
yeah, and then you're just like,
assuming.
yeah, like assuming of
Yeah.
what I have high hopes for people, like I still have high hopes for people, but again, people are just like they think he can go up to this dog like, oh, what a cute dog, and then this dog is just can get
Yeah.
very stiff. This dog is very like rah, like he won't bite, but he'll just rah, and then but for some people it's scary, and I'm like, this is why you're stuck with me, buddy. I still love you, but I'm like, okay, but even like just having that whole transition with like just me just realizing also too, like I guess we also maybe can talk a little bit about like what happens if you have a dog already at home
Mhm.
and then you're bringing in a new dog, right? Like either go I feel like it either goes really well or it goes really bad in the sense like how you introduce
I
a
think
new dog.
no, 100%, and I think my slight tangent on this, my personal opinion on, like, the right time to introduce a second dog is we're not getting a second dog for our first dog, which is where I think a lot of people get this wrong. We're getting a second dog because we want a second dog
Mhm.
for one reason or another. There's so many reasons why people would want a second dog, but where people get it wrong is we're not getting a second dog exclusively for our first dog, for companionship, for a playmate, whatever it is. Like them being companions and being playmates is a happy side effect of us introducing a second dog into the home. And I think and I bring this up because people get this puppy and they assume, their dog has other friends at daycare, their dog's a social dog, and they assume their dog is just gonna love them bringing a puppy home. And a lot of times the dog's like, "Whoa, what the hell is this? This has no social skills. This has no boundaries. This is all up in my business." Like, whoa, and it creates conflict like from day one with a dog who was otherwise like a social, happy, good, would have been a good, playmate dog. So I think the most important thing I mean, back to the beginning of what we were saying, structure and management is your best friend, and separation from the original dog is going to be your best friend at first. I always say we wanna give usually puppies have FOMO. Usually the puppy comes in and wants to get to the bigger dog pretty much from the beginning, but we want both dogs to have kind of an essence of FOMO from each other. We want them both aware of each other's presence at a distance and kind of eager to get there, but not from a like desperation or anxious or aggressive state of mind, right? It's more of like a curious, oh, what is that over there and what is in it for me? And then we the humans show them how they can enjoy each other's company through basically shared structured activities. So like classic is we all go for a walk together. If that means the puppy's in my arms or the puppy's in a carrier, basically the older dog is learning, "Oh, we go for the walk, which I like to do, and this thing comes and doesn't bother me. Oh, okay. They're not that bad." And we do that, 10, 15, 20 times. And then eventually they get to meet each other in some kind of yard setting or whatever it is.
Mhm.
But basically, a lot of shared structured experiences where the older or original dog is doing things that they like and the other dog is just kind of there,
Mhm.
parallel existing and not getting in their way, not getting in their face to a point that both dogs are like, "Oh, you're over there. Oh, can we do this together?" Okay, you'd rather them be interested and kind of lead the way on that than shove them in and hope for that to be the results.
Yeah.
And oftentimes that becomes like the happy side
I
effect is, yeah, they enjoy doing those things together. But if you, again, just shove them in and hope for that, then that creates room for conflict, which is really hard to undo once that is practiced. So,
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, just, like, I feel like, I don't know, you have the saying where most people are like, "Oh, let the dogs figure it out," and I'm like, "No, I do not," because, like, right,
mhm.
like, people will get, like, their 15-year-old, like, older elderly dog or just a dog with, like or just, like, a 7-year-old, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, I'm bringing you this 8-week-old puppy," and I'm like, "Ye," and I'm like you're like, "Yeah, you just made this dog who, you've had for a few like, for the rest of his life, and then look, you just made him an involuntary babysitter," and they're like, "Oh, why is my older dog does not like my new dog?" I'm like, "Gee, I wonder, how would you feel if
Yep.
I brought home a new person and I go, this is your roommate for life or your sibling for," and then they're just like, like, especially where I would wanna give the first dog reassurance that, "Hey, don't worry about the puppy. Hey, don't worry about him being
Right.
annoying. I will take care of it. I will keep you safe." And
Yep.
I go, "Hey," and I go, "Puppy, I love you. Your older sibling right now is figuring you out right now, but let me teach you what you could be doing instead of climbing all over him and just all up in his business," like, especially
Well,
when there's such a huge age gap where, like, just temperament-wise.
yeah, and back it's another, like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you can let your older dog correct the puppy doesn't mean you should all the time. I think where people get it wrong, I'm pro it's depending on the older dog. Like, I use my older dog, Atlas, for correctional work and, behavioral work, but what I always have the younger dog or the dog I'm working with on a leash, so as he starts to stiffen, lift his lip, growl, give signs of, "Hey, go away from me," I can use that leash as guidance to show the dog, "Hey, this is what he's communicating to you." I think where people get it wrong is they assume just because they're both dogs, the younger, less socialized dog is going to know what that correction is saying. And oftentimes, that older dog has to do it over and over and over and over to a point that they then have to jump on the dog and, like, really overly scare them to a point that, there's yelping and it becomes a whole thing when it could have just been a much more simpler learning moment of they step in, they lift the lip, they growl, and we walk away. And that's a learning moment from the puppy of, oh, okay, I move away when they do that, basically, because they don't,
Yep.
some dogs are better at that naturally than others, but that's one of the things I learned the most in that secondary daycare environment is we were getting year and a half old dogs with zero social skills and zero ability to, like, read the room of if a dog was trying to play with them, they'd be trying to play with a dog who's totally minding their own business, and that's on the human in the yard to let that dog know with a leash, like, "Hey, you're bothering this dog minding their business over here. I'm going to walk you away and give you something else, present you with a new opportunity of you're giving me information that you want to play. How can I set that up for you?" Basically, again,
Mhm.
they're physical communicators. They're giving us that information. And instead of shutting that down, it's about, managing it and facilitating it in a way that works for everybody.
Mhm. Yeah, I think just being able to kind of just be proactive, but also, just help reinforce, so, like, just kinda help, like, like, "Hey," just educate, like, "Hey, if you see this, like, you should probably move," and, like, with the leash or hint, hint,
Yep.
wink, wink.
Yeah,
Because,
and
right,
those
like
are
yeah.
that's hard as a trainer to come in and, like, create a drill for, so that's where I like to just be in people's homes and, like, coexisting with the dogs, and, like, we're not, sometimes we're just chatting and a moment like that presents itself and I'm like, "Yeah, that's a," I'd rather that's why I like spending time in people's homes and giving them pretty much little to no instruction, especially when I first come in. Like, I don't tell them to put the dogs on leash. I don't tell them to do anything because I'm waiting for a moment like that to present itself so that we can be like, okay, cool. This is what just happened. This is how we can make that different for next time. And it's like I'm working in so many, multi dog homes where, it's puppy training, but they have an older dog there. And it's a lot of what the owners don't realize they're signing up for is that, like, inner home management between those 2 dogs and adding in more separation than is usually already there, whether that's a gate to give that older dog some, like, time alone, or that's, like, the younger dog stays in the crate while we take the older dog for a walk because the older dog can do more than the younger dog can do, and they've been limited to, only doing stuff with the younger dog, whatever that looks like. But a lot of times it's more separation than what people are doing. Many people just kind of lump all dog activities into one with a secondary dog coming in. And I will be the biggest advocate of no, they're each their own individual, and we need to prioritize doing at least a couple solo activities with each per week, ideally per day, depending on the
Mhm.
dog owner situation. But it's
No,
from a
I
relationship perspective, it's the best thing you can do, in my opinion.
I I agree. I mean, also where, like, if you 'cause just 'cause I'm sure, if you've had people just do a bad way to introduce the dogs or just kinda let them do their thing too much, and then you have clients that call you for, "Oh, my dogs are fighting," or like,
Mhm.
"Oh, hey, we've got
Yep.
dog 1 has issue with dog 2 when we do this," and then, like, just sometimes it's like, right, some of them, it could have been proactive, some of them is just, you know,
Yeah.
it is what it is. They call us up and go, "Alright, cool, like, we'll help you out," but just little thing just, like, the little things go make a long way. Like, I kind of, like, tell people I I don't know, I kinda tell people, like, when you work with puppies or when you work with your new dog, think of it like stock market. Like, the more you invest now, like, later, you're gonna see it grow. You're gonna
Absolutely.
see it grow to be like, oh,
Absolutely.
health like, a really nice dog at that point, and
Well, yeah, and it's back to your proactive versus reactive. Like, both are work. Either you're putting in the work now to do less work later, or you're not putting in the work now, and you're gonna have to do more work later because you're gonna have to clean up all the messes from all the chaos that the not trained dog is going to naturally ensue. So
yeah.
it's just choosing your work, choosing your hard, and choosing what kind you want to do. And I think that's where hiring a trainer definitely makes a huge difference in even again, it's something I did with my personal dogs for certain things where I just felt like I wasn't quite getting it right and I just couldn't figure it out there. And I think so many dog owners that I work with have so much good knowledge and so many skills where they kind of think they don't really need it. And I will be the first to say, like, as a dog trainer, I'm hiring another brain to look at the situation and kind of help me, give me tricks, give me new ideas because, if it's a good dog trainer, it's only going to benefit you, like
Mhm.
that's where, again, the consult process becomes very important, I think, and I love to refer people out to trainers that are local to them that I think would be valuable to them, but that's where, again, a good trainer is, like, worth their weight in gold, and, like, they will be able to customize each and every little thing that you are experiencing and give you tips and tricks to fix it real time, and they're also telling you you're not gonna see yes, you will see real-time results, but it's not permanent real-time results. It's like,
Mhm.
it's gonna be a process of, for as much as they practice the thing, we need to then practice undoing the thing. It's like a muscle, It you know, the things
Yep.
we don't want them to do gain strength the more they do them, so the sooner we can nip that in the bud, the better.
Yeah,
Um,
and the
but
same thing if we what you said, if we w if something seems off, we just take a few steps back. We just kind of redo kinda go back a few steps and then see what happens after. So
yep,
all good steps, and again, it's just nice to just have something like this so people can listen to, be like, "Oh, that makes sense." Because I don't know, I love listening to podcasts, so for me, just to have someone listen to and on this when you're cooking, driving, be really
totally.
good, and it's like you and I've had plenty of dogs go in and out through the house, especially you do board and chains, and then, like, I've used to do board and chains, so I totally get it, especially when you have a household of well, I have a household full of 5. Meanwhile, you have you between Atlas and Arlo, like, you have, like, I love those 2 goofballs. Like, my mine are a little bit mine aren't as goofy as they are, but I still love them, so but,
They're a special bunch for sure.
they're they're a special bunch, so but yeah, so I mean, like, I would say, like, this was an awesome talk, and, like, like, Ingrid is local in my area too, so like you, whether it's me or her, you can't go wrong. Like we're like I love her as a person, as a trainer. So like if she has she between she's doing training part time and she's also dog walking part time. Like if like if you have a pup like right now, like if like I know you're booked for the most like for a little bit, right? But if
I
someone
am.
but like I assume if you're taking boarding trains, you want like the puppies, right? Or you want like the goofy like easier dogs, right?
I severe behavioral cases, I usually refer out, but I usually say, "Hey, let's do one session together and see how it goes." Because what's often described as severe behavioral, can sometimes be as simple as, just a relationship tweak, a small schedule tweak, a small, you know, it's easy to start with me and then I'm always happy to refer out. And I was going to say ditto to you. I'm referring people to Kevin all the time, but I think what my schedule is looking like right now, where are we? We're mid-June. I'm about a month out. So if anybody's like going to be getting a dog soon, wants to start that process and or, doesn't maybe need it right now, but a month from now is thinking they're going to need it. My Instagram is like the easiest way to either you can DM me on there or I have my training form, which puts you into my training system and then I just reach out to you directly.
Yeah,
Those would be the easiest ways of contacting me if that was something you were interested in. I cover for in-person, anywhere from Novato all the way through Roanoke Park, and then I also do virtual sessions. And virtual sessions I actually can do often squeeze in um, earlier and sooner in my schedule than in person. But I will always also be transparent about the limitations of virtual work. Like it's a good foundational start for a lot of dogs, and then oftentimes I will refer them out to someone in person to take them to the rest of their goals because, back to the physical component, you need to be there to really see what the dog's doing and show the people how to physically communicate. But that
for
would
sure.
be back to Instagram. That would be the way to contact me if you want to do
Yeah, it's
that.
the your Instagram, is it the girl's best friend's
It's
Instagram page?
Ingrid.pups is
Okay,
but all of my socials are Ingrid, my name, Ingrid, period, dot pups, Pups. Both my TikTok and Instagram are that. So, and
perfect.
Girl's
Yeah,
Best
it's just
Friend Dog Training is my dog training business, and that'll be like the name under it. But that was just too long of an Instagram handle.
it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, Facebook, YouTube. I'm gonna just wrap it up with Ingrid. But
Wait,
thank you for whoever said hi or commented. I really appreciate the support and just having everyone talk while I were talking with Ingrid. But otherwise, hope everyone has a good day. And yeah, everyone, thank Ingrid for hopping on for this live stream.
thanks for
It's
having
great.
me. That was
So
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 fun.
we'll so we'll wrap up and hope everyone has a good day.
Sweet.